strategic about polling areas, the polling centers that can be active.
Thank you. Tanui, FCP, please kindly ask your questions.
Thank you, Chair. Let me start by acknowledging that I have interacted with Honorable Amadi in my course of duty. So I want that to be Madam Amadi, you've been at
yes,
the GSC. Kindly confirm to me and this panel, were GSC commissioners full-time or part-time?
they were part-time.
All of them were part-time. And confirm also that you are the accounting officer for the judiciary and also for the GSC.
That's correct.
Thank you. Now, you will be transitioning from having been accounting officer for those two institutions, and you'll be chair of a commission that has full-time commissioners. And secondly, the former chair of Iebc, Isaac Hassan, he did observe in his book that in a commission where there is dual executive structure with a chairperson and also an accounting officer, he indicated that there is always a risk of that person getting the blame for the failures of the institution. Likewise, for you. Officer, given how will you transition? Thank you.
Indeed, I have been secretary to the Judicial Service Commission and as Chief Justice. It reminds me of the challenge that we had. Justice is also chair of the commission, because remember the Chief Justice as head of the judiciary also reports to the JAC, because at the JAC is the boss, the Chief Justice is the chair, and in the judiciary they are the institutional head. So sometimes there was a problem in terms of balancing the duality of those two roles. As I said, I served under the Chief Justice, that's how they managed themselves. At what point, the challenge was always, at what point do I put my foot down as head of the judiciary? At what point is this now a commission issue? Because sometimes that overlap, where, for example, the Chief Justice has a particular view on an issue that's affecting the judiciary, and the commission has a different view. It's something that kept playing out. So what we did, one of the things I did earlier in my time at the judiciary was to develop a Judicial Service Commission charter, which clarified rules, indicating how far so that you potential conflict. So yes, the charter is taking the rule of law. We had a lot of governance trainings, capacity building. They kept coming in at different times. This particular one is unique because the panel is handling the selection process for the entire IEBC commission. But the commissioners of the JAC came at different times through elective processes or appointive processes. And so each time we had new commissioners, we had to go through some kind of governance training, induction, just clarifying roles. It was never easy. I cannot say that it was, even the charter did not sort it out, to give us a lot of guidance in terms of how far one could go. So for me, having been secretary, it gives me an advantage, because then I understand the secretary would have when you have when there is overreach from the part of the members of the commission or the chair of the commission, and therefore you know that what I felt was a problem as a secretary. I should not now again doing the same thing to the CEO, because I know how difficult the work the CEO can be with many of no interference at all. So for me, it is an advantage, because I've had that experience. I have and I've also learned a lot from the three chairs that I served during that period. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I want to a follow-up question, and I want to get your view on this. Can commission or you as a chairperson, is there any law that stops the chairperson of a commission to be appointed an accounting officer?
I'm not aware of any law. It's more the appointment of accounting officers is technically by the CS National Treasury. It's not by the institution. So that you are appointed to serve in an institution, but the formal appointment Treasury. If a chair was to be an accounting officer, I think there would be a lot of problems, governance-wise, because then the chair is supposed to be playing an oversight role. So if the chair is again the accounting officer, there's obviously conflict there. It will be difficult to say audit the institution, because remember, the internal auditor reports directly to the chair, to the commission, not to the CEO. So if the chair is then again the accounting officer, there is a problem there. So I'm not aware of any law that stops that, but I know that it doesn't. It would be a huge governance problem. It would be problematic in any institution.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Misati, you have please to ask some questions.
Thanks so much, Chair. Honorable Madi, you are aware, and it is in public knowledge, that in some instances, we have had the Secretariat, the CEO of
Please speak closer to the mic so that
the Secretariat, who have had a very stormy relationship with the chair of the commissioners, and in some instances we have had others who have had a very cordial relationship. Would you term it a personality issue or institutional structure issue from where you sit? And given an opportunity, will you be able to make any changes, or you will want to maintain the status quo? Thanks.
Thank you, Chair. There are several reasons that cause tension between the chair and secretary, or the commission and the secretary. One, could actually be just personality differences. If the two cannot agree because there's different, maybe there's a problem. The other issue could be overreach, where the secretary feels that the chair is trying to interfere and they are trying to stand their ground, and there is no there is no understanding between the two. Sometimes there is just institutional dysfunction where things are not properly structured, and so when things are not properly structured, there is lack of clarity. It causes a problem. But there is a way of dealing with that. And one of the ways is, first of all, for people to understand their respective roles. And if there is a set of rules or a chart to guide that, better still. It is also important that because the chair is the leader, it is the chair because the chair is the person that is giving direction. If, for example, the secretary, the CEO, is not taking instruction or not doing or not even the roles of the chair is to implemented. It then becomes a disciplinary issue because that is assigned by their job description, so you cannot get away from that. If the relationship is stormy because there is what do we call it, interest, that sometimes does happen. It poses a difficulty for the institution. So what I would do in terms of having a cordial and a professional relationship with a secretary is, first of all, to get to understand the person that you're working with. What is he like? What is his leadership style? What are his values? It's important to understand you and your value and what you stand for, and what your expectations are, and where the boundaries are. So when the boundaries are clear, that might begin from here. Where might stop. It would be important to have a framework, a reporting framework as you're not in charge of operations, you have to know what is going on. You have to know what is going on, because when something goes wrong, then the blame is on the chair, it's not on the CEO. So it will be important for constant reporting, so that you know exactly what is going on. And give guidance, not just not their work, to do the operations, guidance. That had a lot of experience in public finance management, matters procurement, in matters ICT, in all those matters. Then it gives me that opportunity to be able to things that may not be something is being effective or implemented, is not being done correctly. It's very easy for me to be able to and the relationship is respectful. From both sides, and that reduces tension. It is good also to acknowledge good things that the secretariat is, so that it's not always harsh. Being coaching type of leader, I've been able to coach those working under me, give feedback, because sometimes when you don't give feedback and something is going wrong, that continues to be wrong. With a good feedback mechanism, it is then possible to create a relationship where expectations are clear, and where tension, if any, is minimized.
Thanks for a question. From your answer to the panel is like you say, both personality and the structure of the institution, they play a role. From your point of view, in your case, would you be evaluating the kind of person you've been, or would you make any changes? Let's know that.
Okay.
Then the other thing is that you mentioned about of the pressure in the IPC. Something that in terms of the role of the commissioners and the role of the secretary has to be distinct of the pressure.
What your second question?
Say that this is that the chair or the commissioners was unselected. So how did you think you take to become a chief the secretary?
The first question is whether I'm making at the level. Unless there is reason, it's always good to allow people to finish the term and based on the evaluation of what they did during their initial term, the commission can determine whether to extend or the term of that particular individual. But to be good on what are the challenges, are the things that can be addressed, because I believe that at the end of at the entry point, there has to be some kind of engagement, and usually as you get to the end of your term, there is some kind of evaluation looking at how the work has been done in terms of operations, in terms of reporting, in terms of audit reports and all that. So I would hesitate to see that I would make a change before I know exactly what it is. But my view would be that whoever is in office ought to run their term if there is nothing really compelling, and then determine what they want to do in terms of progressing forward. The commission is the one that gets pressure when there is problems at the level of the whatever operational issues. If there's a problem with the electoral process at any stage, the pressure is on the commission, not on the secretariat. And that is why the commission has to exercise its oversight role in a very structured way, in a strong way, and minimum expectations from the CEO. The things that the CEO must do and report to the commission, so that if there was a meeting and the minutes are there and the directions that were given at the next meeting, are the matters arising, the CEO should be able to indicate what they have done, not just say, but
is always expected to be partial. At the same time, it's expected to engage stakeholders like the judiciary, the executive, the legislature, and I would like to hear from you. What do you think you'll be able to do in terms of maintaining that impartiality, but at the same time engaging the specific stakeholders, the executive, and
thank you so much, Chair. Yes, indeed, the Iebc is supposed to be an impartial arbiter that carries out its responsibility without any influence from anywhere, without influence government from any political party, from any candidate, from any public office. And it is indeed true that stakeholder engagement is very, very important. It's very important. In fact, there is no institution that can run without engaging stakeholders. We have to work with partners. Engaging with stakeholders, first of all, you have map them out and know who are the people that I need to work with. Is it the police? Is it the DPP? Is it the judiciary? Is it civil society organizations? They're talking about voter education, for example. Is it DCI? Is it based on whatever it is that the Iebc is seeking to gain? Also, engagements must be on the basis of the rule of law. All the engagements must be on the basis of observance of the rule of law and based on the respective mandates of the Iebc vis-a-vis the mandate of those other institutions. If it is, for example, the police, and you're seeking to effect arrests for people who have violated the Election Offences Act, then you're operating just on the basis of that, following the law. If it is about witness protection, so stakeholder engagements have to continue, but based on the rule of law. Thank you.
On a follow-up question, would you, if you were to consider developing a stakeholder engagement guideline, what are these principles that would guide the stakeholder engagements? Apart from the rule of law, yes, you mentioned.
Okay. There's the issue of common interest. What are we interested in as Iebc based on the mandates of the other organization or institution? We will also look at the how do I say? We need to look at what is it that Iebc requires? What kind of support does Iebc require from the other organization? It also has to be based on mutual respect. It also has to be able to, whatever engagement you're having should be able to meet a need of the Commission. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Saman. This time I want to invite Nicodemus Pore to ask you some questions. We saw your service to the nation for the last 10 years in the public. And from your CV, you have indicated that you did almost 20 years in the public service.
Yes, indeed.
I'm sure you have had experiences of misconduct within your institutions that you have been serving.
Yes.
And also, your role was to ensure integrity was upheld. So, how are you able to deal with such internal misconducts at the same time upholding integrity, especially as a chief registrar for the last 10 years?
Yes, we have a lot of challenges with the integrity issue of the judiciary. It's in the public domain. We know that we have very many good judicial officers, but we also have those that disappoint, and it's really a national problem. So some of the integrity issues that we had at all levels, at the judicial level and at the administrative level, included things like allegations of corruption, allegations of improper influence, and that's on the judicial level. At the motions, there will be those allegations. And so what did we do? In terms of looking at matters integrity, the judiciary created the Office of the Judiciary Ombudsman that would receive complaints from the public or from the internal public. And so the complaints would be processed and sent to the Judicial Service Commission, which has a disciplinary mandate both for staff and the judicial officers and the judges. So complaints would come. Those are complaints manually that are developed to help us process them by way of giving the complainant an opportunity to be heard, and also giving the judicial officer or staff an opportunity to be heard. And then a determination is made. In a few cases, there were people who were let go. In some, there will be a warning or a severe warning, or one will be admonished. So different levels of disciplinary outcomes, depending on the gravity of the problem. So in terms of upholding integrity, we did customer satisfaction surveys to just have a sense of what people are saying about us. Initially, we got a very low percentage, and subsequently we kept getting better because we were able now to identify the areas where we were being hit the most and trying to put measures in place to make sure that we try and deal with the issue of upholding integrity. One of the initiatives that we put in place was to have integrity assurance officers in every court station. So every court station had to pick 2 people to be integrity assurance officers, and we partnered with the EACC to train so that they will know what to look out for and indicate who was doing what. It was still new by the time I left the judiciary, but that it is progressing well. So apart from the Office of the Judiciary Ombudsman, we have the integrity assurance officers, and we also have the judiciary leadership team that deal with certain aspects of concerns that were coming from the court stations, especially where there is no report. Because one thing you realize is that many times people will say court so is corrupt, but they will rarely come and say, I gave this or I did this, because things are done under the table. So that it's when it's a matter that is of common notoriety, but you don't really have any evidence, it becomes challenging to deal with it. But again, you can deal with it administratively, just like asking the magistrate or the staff to come and tell this is your reputation, and you've been watched. And in some situations, it did help.
As a follow-up question, the position we applied for is very high public scrutiny. And remember, a year ago, before you left office,
Yes.
the High Court issued orders to freeze your personal accounts,
Yes.
those of the law firm associated with yourself.
Yes.
That is Amadi and Associates Advocates in relation to a gold scandal.
That's correct.
It is alleged that you and other persons who were at the center of the gold scandal defrauded a British student of more than $100 million paid to the purchase of 1,500 kilograms of gold.
That's correct.
Which it is said you were to deliver in exchange for the payment. These are serious allegations.
Very.
And wish you to have a chance to explain to the public
Yes.
how this position you have applied for, noting the serious allegations of your involvement in the gold scandal.
Yes.
And maybe you can have a chance to clear the air.
Yes. It's true that there was an order that was issued freezing my account, and I agree with you that the allegations are extremely serious. My response is I resigned from it in 2014. And I was very busy in the judiciary. There was no time even to go and, get into any kind of practice. So for me, it was a malicious attack, which is something that you must be ready for. Public service at certain levels is not the thing. I found that I had nothing to do with it. So I have the decisions which I can share with the Secretariat if need be. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you. You give a copy of that decision to the gentleman behind you. Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Mwanatanui, FCPA. Oh, sorry, Professor Adams. Professor Adams, I'm sorry about that.
Thank you very much, Chair. You are seeking to grow to a very high voltage position. You have just come from a high voltage institution. In terms of promoting institutional integrity in the judiciary, looking and reflecting now that you have exited.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Indeed, I have come from a very high voltage position, and I was very conscious of the fact that Iebc is also very high voltage before I consulted within myself and decided that I wanted to give it a try. I don't know whether it's because I'm through it, but I know that I've been tested and I have been tried, and I've undertaken high voltage national processes relating to the transition of two presidents in this country, and I did it successfully under immense pressure. I never lost my composure. I never lost my comportment, and it's because I have a very high self-awareness. And for as long as I'm following the rule of law, it really doesn't matter. I applied knowing that Iebc is one of the most vilified institutions in this country. Either as by way of perception or whether it's real, whether the things that Iebc is accused of are true or not true. I can't sit here and say that this is what they did wrong, but I know that I'm able to take pressure, and I know that I have very high emotional intelligence. I know that I'm able to be a unifying factor in the commission. I'm able to reach out because I believe that sometimes I've seen is there is a lot of problems even at party nomination levels if it comes to the Iebc. And when there is trouble at the nomination level, it is likely to show up at the electoral levels. So my thinking is that constant engagement with the political parties and other players is very important so that there is no suspicion. There's a lot of work that needs to be done in terms of restoring public trust in the Iebc, because this is our country and this is our institution, and we need to get to a level where we're able to trust outcomes. I remember in 2017, the judiciary elected one jurisdiction, it was Ghana, to see how they do their electoral dispute resolution. That year we had 300, the previous year we had 388 election disputes in the judiciary. In Ghana they only had 7. Reason? The trust that they have in the electoral body. And my vision is to see an Iebc like that in this country, where an election can happen and people feel that yes, I lost, but I lost fairly. We need to deal with the party discipline first. There are times when we all know in this nation that for the so-called stronghold areas, once you have the party ticket, then you're as good as elected. Voter education remains so important because the people who fight, the people who are used to cause violence are the same voters. So my view is that as the Iebc does voter education, it's important to extend it to civic education so that it's not just voter education. We've also placed a very high premium on the presidential election because ordinarily you'll find that a lot of the other constitutions are contested as the top position. When we talk about technology, the challenge I see is that very few people understand it, how it works. Is there a way through which the Iebc can engage all the stakeholders in looking at what they want in terms of specifications for the digital systems? How do they want it to work? What should it look like? Because when we have very few people who understand the system and the rest of the population doesn't, because the process should be simple, accurate, verifiable, and all that. But if it's not understood, then it's very difficult to deal with the aspect of suspicion. So my thinking is that all these processes should somehow be accessible for those who want to know, those who want to participate. They should be allowed to participate so that then at every stage people know what is going on and people know what to expect. When there is any kind of mystery, any kind of we don't know what is going on, then we are likely to continue on that trajectory. So what I'll try to do is just be more open. I'll try to be more engaging with stakeholders at every stage and also communicate strategy on need basis so that questions are answered before, so that we are proactive and not reacting to complaints that are being raised. And this panel has a very key role in ensuring that you also just give this nation a team that is going to help us achieve that. It's not an easy thing, but I know that it is doable, because if we get it right from this panel, then you're likely to get it right at the critical moment. Thank you, Chair.
You just talked of public trust, and Iebc is one of the institutions that has one of the lowest public trust, depending on which side of the political divide you are in. It is this very same Iebc that we have seen chairs declaring results surrounded by policemen without fellow commissioners. Sorry for that. Without fellow commissioners. You have just told us about how you have overseen 2 presidential succession with immense pressure at hand. This one is even going to have even more immense pressure. And the country is looking, as you correctly say, can we get it right this time? What does Anna Madi bring in terms of leadership, in terms of courage, in terms of integrity? Because people die. We know of very key officials who died in unexplained circumstances up to today. It will be high voltage. What does Anna Madi bring that people can look and say, this time round, as you correctly say, we can have an election in which the loser says that all is right, or in which the Supreme Court does not nullify, or in which the Supreme Court listens but doesn't say that irrespective of this and this and this, it should have been done this way. But because of the security of the nation, we need it.
Thank you, Chair. So you had earlier asked just to compare with what we had done in the judiciary. And remember, when I went to the judiciary in 2014, there was a lot of anxiety and a lot of noise, which I was able to calm. There were a lot of issues which are in the public domain, and which we were able to manage and reduce significantly. If you look at for example, the audit queries we had back then, over 50. By the time I left, we had 85 queries, which could be explained. So I bring that, the issue of following the law, keeping people informed, being open, being transparent, and just ensuring that you're moving along with everybody. The issue of pressure, the high pressure, I thought about it, and I'm a very courageous person. I don't look it, but I am. And I believe that if I am able to demonstrate that what has been done is the right thing, it shouldn't matter where the pressure comes from. It shouldn't matter. We have to keep at it, because if we don't sacrifice to occupy that space, then who is it that should? So I've thought about all that, and with my patriotism, I am ready for any eventuality, should it happen in the way that you have described. It's very scary, but doable, and I'm ready for it, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
So where do you draw your strength from?
I draw my strength, first of all, I'm a believer, and I always know that if I'm doing the right thing, then I'm guided from high up. I draw my strength from sticking to the truth, what is true, because the truth can never become a lie, and lies can never become true. I draw my strength from my self-awareness. I know how far I'm able to go, and I know where I cannot go. So that is where my strength comes from. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, I'll move to FCPA Tanui to ask further questions.
Thank you, Chair, and Honorable Ahmadi. I heard you mention about Ghana, how they have been able to hold successful elections. And I would wish that should you be given this position, you also do a benchmarking. I think in Ghana, there are other electoral commissions where the chairperson of the commission has been given executive powers, or they are also accounting officer. And you'll note from our country, there have always been an issue of the roles between the chair and the accounting officer. There are successful commissions that have actually given those roles.
Oh, I didn't know that. Thank you.
So that's for your information.
Thank you.
Now, a follow-up question is on how would you handle conflicts? You will appreciate that IEBC, there are many actors or stakeholders who would want to control the operations of IEBC. You go to Treasury, they don't give them adequate funding, they delay the funding, it affects their processes. There are other stakeholders who tell them they have no powers to make regulations, despite the fact that they are an independent commission. So there are also cases, and this has been reported in the past, where even staff members of the commission are being alleged that they took partisan roles in the election process. So if you get this position as a chair, how will you work around leadership skills and your experience to ensure that all these stakeholders are put together and that the commission achieves its mandate? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'll just give an example of what happened in the run-up to the 2022 elections. There is a framework that was put together, which was called multi-agency team, or something like that, that put together all the agencies. There was judiciary, there was police, there was treasury, there was Ministry of Interior, and Iebc. Basically, for purposes of just seeing how the Iebc could be supported to be able to conduct a successful election in 2022. And they had several meetings where the Iebc, outside of the normal framework, was able to indicate the kind of support that they needed, the kind of timelines within which they had to do what they needed to do. And there were certain commitments that were made by the various agencies. But I know that at some point, again, Iebc stepped out of that framework for some reason. I think it was a good initiative that can still be tried. The reasons as to why Iebc stepped out of that framework are not so clear to me at this point in time, but I've always believed that when things are done in a consultative way, through a cooperative framework, they tend to just work better in terms of people understanding that this support needs to be given so as to avoid delays, so as to hinder the processes of the commission. On the issue of staff playing partisan roles in the electoral process, that's very unfortunate. I think you have to be able to disrupt certain informations within the commission. There's a way in which staff can be taken through. They can be taken through processes that can help their mindsets, but again, it shouldn't be too. Certain administrative interventions can be made to make sure that it's difficult for staff to do to carry out their activities, their duties in a partisan manner. For example, if someone was expecting to go and oversee the elections in Nakuru, and last minute they're taken to Kajiado, then they will maybe not be able to do what they had planned to do. So there are certain administrative interventions that can be put in place to just make sure that we minimize on the mischief, if any has been planned. But I'm sure with the team we'll be able to discuss and just see what else is possible to be done, so that people are just following the regulations, the rules, what we did in the judiciary for most of the things, because when I went there, I found that there were no standard operating procedures, there were no, so we had to prepare a lot of manuals that everybody had to stick to. Everyone had to stick to, so that then everything is done in the correct manner. Again, technology can help, because when the system is secure, then there's some of the mischief that can be prevented from taking place, even if the human nature wanted to, interfere with the process.
Lastly, and related to the multi-agency team, which I think I attended one of the meetings at Safari Park. Yes. If in that process of having a multi-agency team, some stakeholders, you observe that some stakeholders could be pushing for an agenda that is contrary to the mandate of Iebc, what would you do?
The Iebc would have no choice but to stick to what is right, and maybe if the agenda is then contrary to the principles that Iebc is expected to follow, maybe that is the reason that what happened last time did happen. It might get to a level where you have to step out if it is not serving the interests of the nation, if it is not serving the interests and the objectives of the commission. Yeah.
Thank you very much. The media might just call you the disruptor of Iebc if you got this position, and so thank you for those answers. I want to ask Professor to ask you some questions.
Madam Anamadi, I see from your CV that you have also done a lot in FEDA and gender-related matters.
Yes.
And therefore I believe that globally you follow advancement of women issues and the gender issues. So my first question to you on that is, which African country recently elected its first female president?
I see her.
Okay, proceed.
The Senate represents counties. We have 47 counties, but we also, in terms of number of senators, we have 67. How do you explain the extra 20 as per the Constitution and Elections, Iebc and Elections Act?
The extra 20, those would be the special seats for women, for persons with disabilities, for the marginalized, those special interest groups. And they come in through party lists which are submitted to the Iebc, and party lists cannot be changed, the final. They assign the naked seats based on a pro rata basis. So that is how the 20 come in. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Madam Amadi, you are aware that by law we are required to ask for public participation.
Yes.
On the candidates that we shortlist, but also to do some due diligence around them.
True.
One of this matter that has been brought to attention is a matter through a memorandum dated 19th of March 2025 by an individual who says that he's a citizen of Kenya, and he claims in his memoranda the following. Alleges that during your tenure as the registrar to the judiciary and also as secretary to the Judicial Service Commission, you failed to comply with express court orders and or the directions in matters in which the commission was directly involved. So the rule of law. Number B, the petitioner claims that in the case 34, petition 34 of 2014, in which JSC was directed to publicize procedures for all its, let me just use my glasses, for all its disciplinary and investigative processes within 90 days of the judgment. He claims that you did not comply with that judgment. C, the petitioner cites the case of the Republic versus Salaries and Remuneration Commission and two others, civil application number 58 of 2020, in which the court ordered payment of backdated salaries to the judges to be refunded, which you disobeyed. Number D, it says that maybe I should ask the Vice Chair to pick up number D and E kindly, just to clarify and put the questions to you.
Thank you, Chair. It's just a continuation, Honorable Amadi.
Yes.
The memorandum says that it was alleged that you should not take a lead role in Iebc. Now, given your past work record, according to his memoranda.
Yes.
And also that he requests the panel to judge you on how, during your tenure, you assisted the judiciary in handling rampant corruption complaints within the judiciary. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Thank you very much. I saw the petition last night, so I didn't have an opportunity to engage with it thoroughly and to give a comprehensive response. But the decision that whoever the complainant is talking about related to judges' salaries. Salaries of judges are paid by the judiciary. They're a direct charge to the consolidated fund. So that when a decision like that is made, then my role is to communicate to the treasury for effect, which I did. And if I had, then I would have found a way of getting the material to respond. But I did comply, and so it is the executive that pays the judges directly. The magistrates and the staff. So the rule of law was followed. The one on...
So did you advise the
National Treasury?
Yes.
Yes, we did advise the National Treasury, and I think the SRC as well, because it had a huge budgetary implication. Then the one that, what is it? The one on corruption cases, I think I had responded partly when panelist Bor, sorry, I hope I got the name right, asked me about my case. We had a very comprehensive framework for dealing with cases of this nature. We even had cases where, I'll give an example of a case where a magistrate was, and the case went on and she was acquitted. but the JEC still let her go, because JEC was of the view that yes, the court has acquitted you, but from the evidence that we have, we can see that there is clear misconduct. So it is not correct that we did not deal with corruption cases. There was a day that we lost 5 magistrates in one day for these kinds of malpractices. So it is not correct that we did not handle those cases. We did. The challenge, as I said earlier, is that a lot of allegations are very little evidence, if any. So when there is no evidence, then it's a bit difficult to deal with it conclusively. You can deal with it by way of engaging the individual, but where there is evidence, the Commission has been very strict in addressing this issue. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. We apologize that you got this last night. The memoranda came to us on the 19th, which is a few days ago. If you can be able to help the Secretariat with some of that material you have mentioned, just to be able to confirm your response.
Yes, I will try, because I'm not in the judiciary anymore. So it means asking someone to help me retrieve that. I will make the attempt nonetheless. And maybe you can give me the timeline within which that should be done, so that if I'm able to get the material, then I'll be able to respond more comprehensively.
Do that in the course of this week.
Okay.
Yeah, today is Monday, so if you do that by Friday, it will be okay.
Thank you, Chair.
Yes. Allow me to thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
And to just say that we have enjoyed interacting with you. We have learned a lot about your work in the past, the judiciary, your work with FIDA, your community engagement, and we are grateful to the responses you have given to us. I'd like to ask you if you have any question for us, so that we can be able to respond, if at all.
Mine is just to wish you well. It's a challenging process, very daunting, but you have what it takes. So I just want to wish you well and to thank you so much for having me. Bless you.
Thank you very much. You have a bottle of water before you. Feel free to take with you. And your documents so that you don't leave them with us. And if there's anything else that we can do, the Secretary to the hand to you. Otherwise, these members have enjoyed interacting with you.
Thank you very much.
And we wish you well.
Thank you.
Asante. Shukran. Yeah. You can take your notebook. Thank you. So media, I can see some of you very keen fixing your camera on our documents. The documents are not for public consumption. So please take some judicial control so that we are not exposing them to the public. It's the interview, not the documents. At this point, I want to ask you to, again, give us some time. Please, we thank you for doing this for us. Give us some time so that we can finish our processes together. Please do so quickly. So, please don't leave your mics on. Just turn off your cameras, your mics.